follow-up video from the last one where we saw all the effects of friction and how much you really needed to pull, but now we're going to translate that into our pulley system. So let's go. For this test we're going to see what happens when we use descending devices like the Petzl rig or ID or Traslov 2 or any of those devices as a progress capture device on that end. We're going to make basic pulley systems, compound pulley systems, maybe complex, we'll see how far we get. And we're going to measure the forces of where we pull, how hard we pull on the different spots in the system. There will be 2 line scales in play. I have one rope rigged up, the yellow one, it's going all the way up somewhere over there, up you can see, and then it's going to come back down onto this. And what we saw in the last video is that that's about 105 kilograms. It's going through a pulley in just a little bit less than a 90-degree angle. So that will add some friction. I will do a baseline test with the X-Safe winch straight onto the rope and see how much it needs to pull, and then we can see how much friction is being added on with the pulley and all the pulleys in the system here. So I'm excited. Let's do this. This will be a little bit more challenging to film, but the first thing we're going to measure is how hard does that winch need to actually pull on the yellow rope to lift that 105 kilos up. So that rope grab, and you can see it in the other footage, I have the two phones measuring the 2 line scales. One says hand, and that will be our hand, our input, what we will be pulling on. So first we're going to measure how hard does that winch need to pull on the rope to actually lift the load. Lifting up. Here we go, it's pulling, it's pulling, it's pulling, it's pulling. And the weight is moving. Now, a lot of stretch in the system. So it's going up, and we need to put in 180 kilos to actually move the weight, as you can see on the phone on the right, which is the hand. All right, so let's lower it back down. I will write it down like this. We get, I hope you can read it, the theoretical mechanical advantage, a 1-to-1, that's what we just did, resulted into a, figure something out there, 190 input. That will be input. Progress capture device, it was none. We did not have any pulleys or beaners, there was no change of direction. Right now I'm going to show you a 3-to-1 with the ID as a progress capture device and a carabiner as the point where it grabs on. I will show you in a minute. There will be no change of direction, and this will be a question. So what did we rig up? What does this look like? Let me change like this. We have the rope coming in, it goes that way through a ID descender, and then it comes into this rescue sender rope grab. There is one LineScale LS3, and there's a carabiner here. This carabiner is what's creating the 3-to-1, because we're going to be pulling on this one, which also has a line scale. The line scale will measure our actual input, because the blue rope is going into the X-Safe winch, and that's actually doing the pulling. So the 3-to-1 will be a 1, 2, 3 ropes. Zoom out a little. These 3 will create our 3-to-1, or our basic Z-rig. That's what that end looks like. So over here I have rigged up. We have one anchor point, the rigging plate for later on to get some more pulleys going. Progress capture device as an ID descender, and I have the X-Safe winch on the strap edge mat just for some little protection, because we all know how expensive these babies are. This blue rope will be our hand, our input. But we're doing it with a winch, because then it will be constant speed. Let's set it up. Okay, I have the remote of the X-Safe here. I press once, and we're gonna go up. Let's see what happens. We are measuring. What are we measuring? I will tell you there. 6. So unfortunately they turn away from me. So I'll have to overlay it on the screen what the other camera is filming right now. So we need to pull 60 kilos on that. And this carabiner sees 90. I'm gonna go in a little bit higher just to check it again. 110 to move it. So that makes perfect sense, right? Because of the friction, our input is 60, so this sees double that. The ID is giving so much friction that this theoretical one translates as a practical one. It's like a 2-to-1, I think. I will write it down and we'll continue with the next one. We will change this to a not so very efficient pulley, and in the other video I released you can see how efficient it is, but it's way better than a carabiner. So we're going up and we're measuring and we're putting in 30 kN, 40. The load is coming up right now. Now we're actually lifting 60, 65 and 113. So we're pulling like with 65 kilos and we're getting 113 in this point. All right, on to the next one. Petzl rescue. What are we measuring? Our basic Z-rig, we're pulling on the blue rope. We're going into a rescue pulley, creating our 3-to-1 or Z-rig system. We're going up, first gear. We're putting in 40, 60 kilos, 60 and 115, 60 and 115. Pretty clear, 60 and 115. Let me write it down, I'll be right back. Now I can watch it a little bit and see what's happening. So we've made our pulley more efficient. It's a little bit lighter. The rope grab sees a little bit more pull. On to the next one, we're going to change the ID over to something efficient like a Protraxion. Changing this over, this will be very efficient. That's what we saw. This was one of the most efficient devices we had in the other test. We are going for Protraxion, a very efficient pulley in a Z-rig with a carabiner as the first pulley, not a pulley. But you get my idea. All right, we're going up. I hope, yeah, we're going up. The weight is already floating. We are putting in 65 kilos. And this sees 100. 65, 100. All right, let's write that down. ID with a rescue pulley, we needed to put in 60. Protraxion more efficient than ID, but with a carabiner we needed to put in 65, and the carabiner adds so much friction more than what the ID. All right, so this is going to be cool when we get to adding change of directions in it. So let's do the Protraxion with a rescue carabiner and then we will see the difference. Petzl Protraxion in when we did an ID with a pulley here. Then our input was 60, so we change it out to something efficient. Here we go, let's see what we get. Our input is 45 and 90. Now it's almost double, 45 and 90. That's awesome. Let's write it down. So we get 45 we need to pull to lift 105. So we're not into the 3-to-1 mechanical advantages yet. There's that much loss in these pulleys. Theoretical versus practical. We just did the Protraxion with the rescue biner, which was about 1.5 times as light. We only needed to put in 45 compared to the 65 with a carabiner. That's nice. And the input on the rope grab here was exactly double, so that's cool to see. That's like the 2-to-1, and there's so many images out there. Let's see if I can show something where it becomes clear that why that's double the input. All right, on to the next one. We're going to add some things right now. Basic Z-rig setup. We have our Z-rig rigged up here with a pedal ID, and this will be our change of direction. Basically what we normally do in a hanging haul, but everything's kind of more horizontal or on a different plane, but the principle will remain the same. This rope grab right here will be my pulling hand. So I have rigged up the ActSafe right here, and it's pulling, let me see, can we see, it's pulling that way into the change of direction. And this is our, where is it, here it is. This is our basic 3-to-1 Z-rig system. First gear, connected, load is already floating, here we go. We're lifting, we're pulling, nothing's happening, the weight is not moving yet. Now it's actually moving. Now this one is moving. It was all stretch we're taking out of the system. We need to put in 120 and 160, 120, 160, 120, 160, 120, 160. Load is going up. We are doing 120. Stop for a second. Continue. We're going to call it 120, 160 just to round up the numbers. Now, how confusing is that? Let me turn this one off. How confusing is that? The numbers are completely opposite of what we saw before. Right now we're actually needing to put in more, which makes sense if we start calculating. But what I find surprising is that we need to pull with 160. And this is 120, 160, 80 goes through. So if I pull 160 and 80 comes out here, 80 gets into this part of, let me stand here. So if I pull here with 160, then we get 80, because we lose half in that carabiner, we get 80 moving in here and 80 moving here. But we lose half. So 80 and 40, it's 120, the T method. It's like magic. It works. All right. If you like this video so far, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And hit that notification bell to always be notified when I release a new upload. If you want to support the channel and help me make better content, make better videos, put more time in it, just subscribe to the Patreon, become a level 1 member or in a level 1 tier, and whenever I release a new video and you support me, that when you sit down to watch this with your notepad and take the notes to really learn, you have your cup of coffee and you buy me one as a token of appreciation. All right, let's start adding some pulleys in there. The setup, the system that a lot of people use, basic Z-rig. We're pulling on this end, I won't make it, so we need a little change of the direction and we put in a carabiner. And now we will see how much that works. We have to wait until this moves, till the values start to really add up. Now it's moving. $120 and $130. Let's call it the hand 130 and, well, that's almost the same. I'm going to call it 125 each. But I had the ID locked off. Wow, that's cool. So you see, this is almost, there's no tension in it. All right, let's do it again. A little bit better. A lot better, actually. 115, equal. So we're putting in 115, but we're actually pulling 115. That's fucking epic. It's exactly a 1-to-1. So, we were pulling with 115, but the change of direction takes out half. We put a pulley here, because that's what we always do. We're pulling here with 115. And that 105 load goes up. So it's not, yeah, it's 1-to-1. Because it took 119 with the friction we had there. Wow, amazing, don't you think? All right, next one. I've never tried this test before. to actually switch it around. I've thought about it and known about it, but every single time you never really try to measure it. This is the first time. Supposedly this should be a lot better than the test previous, because then what we normally do is have a pulley here and then we add, oh, we need to change the direction, it's going to be a carabiner. But now I've taken the time to actually turn it around, and because we want our input to be the most efficient, so we have the rescue pulley on that end, and this is a carabiner. Swapped it out. So let's see what happens. We are going to lift. We're putting in 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And now the load starts to move. 90 we are putting in. And we're seeing 90 and 120, 117, 19 and 116. So it is true, because we had 115 when it was swapped around, and right now it's 90 that we're putting in. So that's quite a big difference. Next one. Petzl ID in a Z-rig with a change of direction with 2 rescue pulleys in them. And this is supposed to be the basic setup what every level 3 should be able to rig up when they're doing their hanging holes, level 2s as well. When this starts to move, we will see the values, and we have the input should be around the same. 70 and 1.1, 70 and 1.1, 70, 70, 1.1, 70, 1.1, 70. All right, cool. So the result is pretty big, because we're going from 160 to 70. So we need to, the input needs to be a lot less than with carabiners. So the difference is huge. Use pulley skids, use pulleys. So let me change it out again. Same Z-rig, instead of an ID, we have a Pro Traxion over there. Oh, speed number 1. We're going up slowly. The load is moving, so what do we see? We see an input of 55 and 88, so 55 and 90, 55, 90, 55, 90, 55, 90, let's write it down. What does that mean, 55, 90? That this is again a lot lighter. We're getting close to, compared to the other system with only carabiners in an ID where we had to put in 160 to move the load. Now we only need to move the load, put in 55 to move the load. So that's 3 times as light. The load is, we needed to put in 119 or 120 in the beginning, so we can call the load 120 because with the friction in the pulley over there. That means that this is still practically, we're a little bit, it's like 2.5 to 1, it's not a 3 to 1, that's all the friction, that's like the 90% friction losses in real life. We have a few more tests to do, and I'm performing these tests while measuring with the LineGrip LineScale 3. I'm using these. I contacted Andy from LineGrip because I thought the whole principle behind it, the community behind it, how it started, I really liked it. The features are really good. It measures at a really fast rate. We don't need it now. Now I have it set at like 10 hertz or 10 per second, but it goes up to 1280. So when we start doing like full tests and drop tests, that's like the hertzes I think you want. But Ryan from How Not To really knows that stuff better than I do. I contacted Andy and I got an affiliate deal. So if you buy your LineScale, your LS3 through my link in the description and you use my code in the description as well, you get a nice little discount and you support the channel. I like him so far, I like him better than the other stuff out there, but take this for what it's worth. I stand to gain from you buying this instead of the other load cells out there. But the connectivity with the apps and everything is really cool. One thing that would be really great if you can get like one phone with multiple LineScales on it. Maybe you can, but I'm lucky I got a second old phone lying around. We will move on and we start adding, because what happens when we cannot do it, it's really easy to add. We have our 3-to-1 Z-rig with the change of direction. We add one rope grab and one pulley and one carabiner. Again, and we got a 9-to-1. It's really easy to transition into a 9-to-1, so let's do that. All right, we're getting into the more complicated things right now. I have built a 9-to-1 system because if I pull on this, let me give it a little bit more attention. Here we go. I was pulling here previously, going through the change of direction, pulling that way. I came out of the change of direction and added the rope clamp with another carabiner. So I am right now pulling on this one, which is another, I hope you can see, 1-2-3-2-1, pulling on a 1-2-3-2-1. So my 3 times the input will be tripled again, so right here I have a 9. But and I already added a change of direction over there. It's all carabiners, so it's a 9-to-1, all carabiners, change of direction through a pedestal ID. This is gonna be horrendous, I think. Let's see what happens. Pulling slowly. When this starts to move, it is moving, so we're getting 115, 120, 115, 115 and 90. 90 on the input, 115, 90 on the input, 95, 95. 95 and 115 is what we're gonna call it. Let me write it down. 95 and 115. So my 3, that's the same as a 3-to-1 with a carabiner here and a rescue pulley on the change of direction. So you don't really change anything with this. Change over. It has changed to a 9-to-1 again, because I have my 3-to-1 coming in here, pulling on the 3-to-1 over here. 9-to-1, we have one carabiner and an ID as a progress capture device, and the carabiner is a change of direction. And we're gonna move that from this one, and the next test it will be over here. Going up slowly. Let's see what we get. Is this moving yet? Now it's moving. Barely. 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 Oh, it takes so much stretch in the system. It's slowly moving through the ID, but you can see I'm pulling, but there's so much friction in the system that there's no tension in this line. There's so much friction in the ID basically, that it's all pulling here, but it's just sort of, from here on, it's sort of equalizing in the ID. You see how much slack there is where we pull on the load itself. So distracted. I might have ruined the rope. All right. So you should always pay attention, kids. Let's see if I get that knot out, otherwise I have to cut down the rope a little bit. I forgot what we got, what the values were, so let's lower it. Go again. Still not moving. I need to pay attention now. $112 and 45. 110, 45. 110, 45. 110, 45 is what we're going to call it. What does that tell us? Not much, but we will see a difference if we move the carabiner through the system. 9-to-1, one carabiner in play. And it's the furthest away from the input. It's right here, where supposedly would be a lot more efficient, especially what we saw with all the slack getting in the system before the ID. All the stuff after the ID was tight. So now we're going to see how this will affect the results. 9-to-1, you also see that there's so much stretch and room and friction before this actually starts to move. I mean, this needs to move 9 meters for that to go up 1 meter. So right now it's actually slowly creeping through and giving us a 35 input and a 115 on this one. 35 input and a 115 on this one. Okay. 35 input and a 115 on that. We have a 9-to-1 rigged with a Pro Traxion and pulleys everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4 pulleys, Pro Traxion, 5 pulleys. This should be a very efficient system. Let's see how efficient it is. The load is moving. Is it going through the Pro Traxion? We do have slight little bit teeny tiny friction right now. And now it's actually moving. 22 and 90, 22k in input, 90 on this clamp, 22k in input, 90 on that clamp. 20 and 90 to make our lives easy. So our 9-to-1 in the real world with sort of the most efficient things I have here. 9-to-1 theoretical mechanical advantage or ideal mechanical advantage translates to a practical or an actual mechanical advantage. Actual might be the better word. The first pull we did was a straight pull of 190, say 120. With our 9-to-1 we needed to pull with 20 kilos. So our 9-to-1 theoretical ideally is actually a 6-to-1. Just because of friction. I'm curious about this one, because in that last video I did with friction, we found out that there was one device that was friction-wise about the same as a carabiner. So I've put it in the system right there. I'm not going to say which one it is yet. And we'll go and pull and see what we get. I have no idea, I cannot calculate anymore. The load is moving. 60 on the input, 100 on this, 60 and 65 and 100. I will write it down. So this was with the Taslov 2. As you could see in the other video I posted, the Taslov 2 was fairly efficient, more efficient than an ID, about the same as a carabiner. So our input of 65 is comparable as with a Pro Traxion or... Oh, this is so interesting. There's so many numbers on there, I cannot see straight anymore. But I think a Taslov 2 would be slightly more efficient than an ID. Will we notice it when pulling and hauling? Nope. All these numbers are still theoretical. It's on the board, whatever. We won't feel it when we're hauling. What we will feel is if we do our hanging haul, and we use a Pro Traxion and only good pulleys, we will feel that's more efficient than if we use ID and carabiners. What we see on the board right now, it is a confirmation of the theoretical stuff that you want your input to travel through the system as far as possible. If you want to see an example of that drawn out on the board and how that works, that really links into this video, go watch this one. I will see you in the next one. Stay connected.